2, 3, now.
Hi, Joe Goodavage here, Conservative Time here in the city of brotherly love. And in the backdrop, we have the beautiful Independence Hall. And the reason I picked this spot is to show you that once in a while, we still have some beautiful things in this country that are not destroyed, pulled down, burned, or degraded. So I picked this spot in beautiful Philadelphia to show that some things are upstanding and guarded by our beautiful park rangers all around, very safe, families are having fun, and it's a beautiful day. All right, Roberto, I understand you have some questions on this great sunny day here in Philadelphia from New York City.
Well, Joe, we have a lot of questions, but let's start with something here. What do you think of the movement to defund the police?
Well, the issue I had with that from the very beginning is, if you just think about what it says, defunding any type of law enforcement or defunding anything that can help the public or society be safe doesn't seem to be a good idea. Now, I understand why people were angry, because there was a lot of issues where people were being abused and having cops do some things that were not common practice. There were some people killed, unfortunately, during the summer of last year. But to be so radical and change things and take money away from a group, a law enforcement that protects, and that's the reason why I brought up the park rangers and some of the security around here, because without them, I wouldn't feel safe being in here. So, again, defunding would mean they would take away money, and someone like this gentleman here would not be able to make sure we're safe.
Another question we have from the audience here. What do you feel about the critical race theory being taught to children?
Well, regardless, children, adults, or senior citizens, the issue I have with that, it stirs the pot. In other words, I definitely think we should acknowledge and always make sure that these things are never forgotten and they never happen again. So let's recognize them. Let's make people aware. But to apologize and to feel as though I am responsible for that is something I totally disagree with, especially teaching someone at that age, as you said, a preteen or someone in a preschool, 3rd or 4th grade. It's very difficult for them to make decisions on their own. I feel a parent should be responsible to talk about something that's so controversial, critical, and important. So I don't think it should be taught by teachers. They should teach math, history, and social studies, not sex education and critical race theory. I would like to know how my audience feels about that, but I think a lot of this is...
Good. Another question, Joe.
Done filming?
Yeah, you could pass, sir.
Yeah, just wanted to take a picture of this plaque.
Sure.
I'm not photobombing you.
No, you can answer some questions if you like.
With your holidays, national anthem, our flag is now disregarded because a small group feels offended, and the majority must then concede. What is your opinion about that?
Well, you kind of answered your question in your question. If it is a group of people that are offended by this, why should the majority concede and bend and make themselves uncomfortable? For years, pledge allegiance to the flag and respecting our flag was something that was considered common sense, especially when you live in a great nation and country like the United States. So let me ask you, if you're uncomfortable with the national anthem and you don't appreciate the flag, you have two options. Excuse yourself and you feel uncomfortable, or move to another country where you can do anything you'd like, but I bet you'd end up in jail or flagellated, chained, and beaten. Now, I could be wrong, but what's the purpose of hating America?
I don't know why people hate America so much. Why do the red states have less crime than the blue states?
Conservative is the word. A lot of the states that you're talking about live on conservative values from the past. And I understand the world has changed and a lot of things need to be respected and understood, and some things do need to change, but at a slower pace. So I feel that the states that you're referring to live amongst what's called common family values. A lot of the other states that we're talking about, the Democratic cities, which is Philadelphia, it isn't as radical as in New York City, but there's still some things that are being changed too quickly, and it's jolting, and it's hard for people to change so quickly overnight. So I think if they took more time and let us welcome it rather than change overnight. Again, one of the things that I noticed personally is, look, I have no issue with transgender people. In fact, I never had an issue with any homosexuality or anything like that. But now everyone's transgender, a third or fourth person that walks down the street. So maybe it's coming on too strong and being force-fed too much. So taking a little bit more time with it and not insisting that we accept these things would probably be digested better by a conservative family or a conservative state.
Do you support the ID?
Okay, this is one that I'm very, very vocal and adamant about. You need an ID to get a hotel. You need an ID to drive. You need an ID to get cigarettes. You need an ID to do almost anything. Why would one of the most important liberties that we get once every 4 years, especially something like voting for someone to run the country, take away an ID? The only thing that I could think of, if you didn't want to show an ID, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Why wouldn't a person want to show their ID? What's the answer? You have something to hide? So I think it's a no-brainer. I also think it's demeaning to some of the minority groups and some of the individuals that are told it's unfair for them to have ID. It's $9.95, and there's a lot of programs that give away IDs for free. I think it's an excuse to make voting duplication, alter the vote. I think it's just really doesn't make any sense. You can't give me a good reason for it. Not as good as I can to tell you to have one.
The blue state supports sanctuary cities.
Can you repeat that, Roberto?
Why blue states support sanctuary cities?
I understand the ideology behind it. They want it to be safe for people to come in and not be arrested and grilled and given a criminal record. But you can't abuse that. You can't send someone into a city and call it a sanctuary city who's running from law enforcement. I mean, to me, the writing's on the wall. If I came in from another country illegally over the border and I was a gang member and I created crimes and I was wanted by law enforcement, I'm going to go to a city that's called a sanctuary city where I can't be arrested. Could you tell me a reason other than that? It's a good idea? A lot of times what I do is I throw the question back at the opposition. And I don't even want to call it an opposition. A sanctuary city has some good ideas, but again, it's too fast, too force-fed, and comes on too strong too quickly. You need to do some of these things at a slower pace so people can digest them and understand it rather than be shocked and not understand it.
In your opinion, do you think much of the violence in America is caused by people who own illegal firearms?
The issue with that is a lot of the attention to crime by the Democratic Party initially is being blamed on assault rifles. Well, I have a quick statistics, and facts don't lie. Assault rifles have been responsible in less than 17% of the crime, 7% deaths. Assault rifles are not responsible for what's going on. A lot of these are handguns, gangs, and things like that. So if you can point out to me where the assault rifles have been responsible for most of the crime, I would be behind doing something with that. But what about the handguns? And what about the groups that are responsible for committing these crimes? They're being set free with no bail and sent back out on the street. All right, so we round up about 4,000 assault rifles. So now hunters can't hunt and people can't protect themselves in their home. What about the handguns? What'd you think?